The FBI really closed their case in 1946 because of the power of United States Senator Richard B. Russell from Winder, next door to Monroe, and the FBI Director J. Edgar Hoover, who didn't want to prosecute prominent, wealthy, rich white people.
I understand you think that this particular act, this lynching of 4 black people, was a civil rights issue?
It was. It was a voting rights massacre. It was all about preventing us from voting. It was a signal to black people in this state, particularly in Walton County. If you vote, this is what could happen to you. We have a minister who lives in Monroe today. His name is Reverend Zach Pope, P-O-P-E. He talks to me all the time about this. He said, Tyrone, even after the lynchings, they left the rope up in the trees for years and years and years as a warning to the black community. If you vote, this is what we'll do to you. We'll bring you here and lynch you. And he's still living in Monroe today. He talks about that constantly. So, yeah, this was a voting rights massacre.
Now, you say you've solved the case.
Yes, we have. We have all of the information. We have the grand jury testimony from 1946. We have the FBI files, the GBI files. We really had the FBI files of 46 when Governor Roy Barnes ordered the case reopened. So we have it's so much information, it's mind-blowing. I mean, it's like a treasure trove of history. And at some point, we want to have an educational learning center and a Morris Ford Museum in conjunction with one of the major universities, maybe in the AU Center, UGA, Emory, Georgia State. But we've got to preserve this history. This is our Holocaust.
Now, when you say you have solved the case, you know who did it?
Yes, we do. We have the names of persons who were at the bridge. We have the list of 55 suspects who were there. This 55 suspect list was published in 1946. We know who drove the car from the jail downtown Monroe, who had the Malcolms and Dorsets in the car. His name was Lord Harrison. He was the driver of the car. He drove them from the jail in downtown Monroe on July 25th, 1946, and delivered them to the mob of Klansmen. So Lord Harrison certainly is one of those persons who should have been arrested immediately. The sheriff of Walton County, the sheriff of Barrow County, the sheriff of Oconee County, the sheriff of Clark County, they had officers on the scene. That's why people felt so comfortable in going and participating in this huge massacre, because they knew under the cover of law, nothing was going to happen to them. The Ku Klux Klan and law enforcement were one and the same. Some people even say today it's one and the same. That's why the students in Black Lives Matter always talk about weeding out those racist elements in law enforcement, and we'll have less confrontations with African Americans and the law. So certainly we can talk about who was there and who participated. Many are deceased now, but some are still alive. That
is the key. So you're saying some of those who are responsible for the deaths of those 4 African Americans are still alive today?
Absolutely. And let me bring it home to you. Yesterday I was visiting with Dr. Joe Lowry. He's 96 years old. When I walked into his home yesterday and I said, Dr. Lowry, I want to tell you, we have solved the Morris Ford Bridge lynchings. He started crying. He said, Tyrone, thank you. Thank you, son. Thank you. He said, I'm so glad you didn't give up. I'm so glad you stayed on this. I said, you remember, Dr. Lowry, I would have you over there every single year. And you brought Miss Evelyn in 2012 before she died in 2013. I said, Dr. Lowry, some of the suspects are alive. He said, Tyrone, listen, I was 25 years old in 1946. He said, many of the suspects was younger than me. Some were in their early 20s, like 20, 21. He says some were in their teens. He says, so certainly some of those people are still living. He says, I'm 96 and I'm still living. And he was 25 in 1946. That gives you an idea that some of the people certainly are gone, but some of the persons are still alive.
And what, if anything, can happen to them? Can they be prosecuted?
They can be prosecuted, but it's not likely. Talking to relatives of the victims, some of them are suggesting civil lawsuits. Okay. Some of them are talking about civil lawsuits against the counties that were present in terms of law enforcement. Walton County, Barrow County, Oconee County, Clark County, maybe Gwinnett County also. Even law enforcement officials can't deny. When you talk to the GBI director, Vernon Keenan today, he says, oh yes, law enforcement was heavily involved. Buddy Nix had already told us that when he was director of the GBI, under the leadership of Zell Miller and Governor Roy Barnes. So it's common knowledge from law enforcement that many people under the cover of law, wearing badges and guns, driving law enforcement vehicles, were on that bridge. And if they didn't participate in the actual lynching of the Malcolms and Dorsets, they participated in the conspiracy of silence by being a witness and not coming forward to help prosecute a known crime that they were witnesses to.